The automation side of this question is much more difficult to answer. It is very much an MSP-centric answer, I tend to believe. But if I had to pick a general place to start with automation, where I would look at doing this would either be looking at easing my tier 1 tech's day and straight looking at, okay, tier 1 techs, you give me your top 20 tickets. Let's see if we can automate either one, ticket types, or go in and audit for repeat offenders. If Johnny Receptionist is continually calling because he is unable to save files, let's find some automation that we can set up to help alleviate those problems rather than us having to manually clean up his hard drive every time he calls, right? Or coming in and looking at maybe unable to print items. So when it comes to our Windows service checks, let's come down here to a Windows device. We can look at, say, for example, our print spooler and edit an individual check or checks like this. So we shall come here to filter. Well, if I could type in a box today, or spell properly for that matter, we can come in and look at editing our Windows service checks to alert on consecutive restarts rather than failures. So we can come in, restart service if stopped. Let's say I want to see 10 consecutive failures, or let's say 2 failures within a 3-hour period, and look at pushing those little bits of automation, at least jumping us down that path directly from the checks themselves. What we also have the ability to look at doing inside the RMM with automation and a nice simple starting spot is looking at what's preloaded inside the RMM dashboard and utilizing these scripts. The set of about 60 scripts that you'll find listed within your user manual underneath automation are actually supported by Enable. So we do quite closely watch these to make sure they're working reasonably well. Now, inside the antivirus section, we don't quite have something that I'm going to recommend starting off with automation. But if we start with application control, where we look at pulling installed apps, pushing them to a file if we need, right? Come in with a couple little service control items. We've got clean up all temp files. There's an empty the recycle bin in here, right? Install and uninstall scripts. These are very, very simple places that we can look at coming, and rather than just keeping this as a manual piece of automation designed to be used upon retention, we can look at coming in and scheduling these on a daily, weekly, monthly, or on check failure basis. So now we can start taking these very, very simple items that we would use for, say, proactive maintenance or monthly maintenance, right? There's even defrag in there. We can start getting our toes wet inside the automation realm just by using what's preloaded inside the dashboard. Okay, so some nice places to start with automation for you folks. Please note, the maximum permitted execution time here is by default an hour. I have actually more and more recently run into folks who are scripting more complicated items that require more than an hour to run. So please be aware of what we are looking at putting on our devices or loading into the dashboard for automation. A good for instance with this is I've spent the past couple days working with a partner to create a script that will pull listed applications. For each of those listed applications, query it against a list of allowed applications. And for each item that is on the computer but not found on the approved applications, it will uninstall it. And for each of the approved applications that's not found on the device, it will install them via Chocolatey. We worked very diligently to make this script work for about 3 days, finally got a working version of it, threw it in the RMM, and then spent the next probably, I don't know, day or two trying to figure out why the RMM would never properly run this script, even though if we ran it through PowerShell or the automation manager, it would. Well, simple things are always the easiest answer. Come to find out that neither me nor the MSP I was working with checked maximum permitted execution time. Turns out we needed to set that particular script at about 4 hours. Right? So live and learn, and definitely found something that I know I now need to be more aware of as we are going through the RMM. Now, what we see here with add automated tasks is for individual devices. So please be aware you can, underneath templates, look at adding multiple sets of checks and tasks to devices, clients, or sites with a simple right click. Monitoring templates can be made from scratch by manually adding each check or task, or you can right-click on a device inside the north pane of the dashboard and create a monitoring template based off of that individual device. So some very powerful items here, especially when we are looking at coming and adding these templates, where we can look at adding multiple templates at once to our devices, clients, or sites. So the way I have my dashboard set up is upon install, a basic set of checks and tasks will get applied to every device that are appropriate for every device, right? Everything workstation or server is going to get disk space checks for the appropriate drives and clean up all temp files, empty the recycle bin, and a couple other maintenance items based off of that check passing or failing. That being said, my servers tend to be a little bit more role specific in what they need automation wise. So each of my servers applications will get a monitoring template as well. So I will have a SQL template. I will have an Exchange template. I will have a DC template. I will have whatever else I would need there. If the server's a host for numerous VMs, I can have automated tasks that look at the health of those items as well. All right, so templating becomes quite a nice feature inside the RMM when we start to use it to its fullest power.